Okay, let me resume the recording. Okay, good evening, everybody. Again, sorry for the delay. I just had a two exam today, so now we are very happy to be here. So okay, so it's a very uh how to say it's a very crazy winter this week in Hokkaido, and welcome everybody to the 62nd edition of the Tourism Online Forum series here in this February 2026. Okay, tonight we are very glad to welcome you to join it tonight, and we also invited Professor Chen Lin, who will share his recent research about spatial patterns and determinants of bed and breakfast in the all for one tourism demonstration area in China and a perspective on urban and rural differences. Okay, let me introduce Professor Chen first. First of all, Professor Chen is also my professor back to my university period in Hiroshima University. And he is currently an associate professor, serve as associate chair of the Department of Human Geography and Urban Rural Planning at the School of Geography, South China Normal University, and the deputy director of the Asian Geography Research Center. Primary research area including the area studies and the rural development research. In recent years, he has published over 20 papers in high-level journals and also lead one national Nature Science Foundation of China NSFC General Program Project and two Japan Society for Promotion of Science, we also know as a KAKEN, research project, and one Guangdong Provincial Department uh, of Science Technology oversees a Distinguished Professor Program project. He currently serves as a committee member for the Agricultural Geography and Rural Development Committee and the Marine Geography Committee of Chinese Geographical Society, and as a council member for the Marine Strategy and Security Committee of the China Ocean Development Research Association. Additionally, he is an international editorial board member for the Japanese Journal of Geographical Science, Chirikagaku, and oversees editorial duties for the South China Geographical Journal. And uh, okay, a little housekeeping notes before we begin. And this session will be recorded and later made available on the CAT's YouTube channel for those who wish to revisit the lecture or translate with other language you preferred. And we also encourage you to leave your question and comments in the Q&A box or ask live. Just raise your hand. And captions are also available. Please do whatever you feel comfortable with. And without further delay, let's invite Professor Chen to tonight's talk. Okay, so because there is a little technical issue, I will share my screen from my side. I apologize for that. So, Chen Sensei, the floor is yours.
Okay,
Yeah.
so good evening again, everyone. So thank you very much for Dr. Moore's invitation. So it's my great pleasure to share my research topic. So in Hokkaido University. So before this talk, I would like to briefly introduce myself. I got my PhD in 2014 in Hiroshima University, Japan. And after that, I worked in Hiroshima University for around 6 years. So in 2020, I went back to Guangzhou of China and worked at School of Geography at South China Normal University. So it means I already came back to China for around 5 years. So also I know a little bit as Japanese. Maybe still I can speak some Japanese. Okay. So today I will give a talk. So titled "The Spatial Patterns and Determinants of B&B in areas of China." So today I will divide my talk into 5 parts. So Mo-san, please move to the next slide. Okay. So first, I would like to briefly introduce the background of this research. Okay, next slide. Next slide. Hmm. Next slide. Maybe slide 3. Okay. So I'm sorry because it's very difficult to connect the Zoom app. So from China, even I use the VPN, it's still difficult to use Zoom app. So I asked Dr. Mo to help me to move the site. So in recent years, bed and breakfast, so also B&Bs have become one of the most dynamic segments of the tourist accommodation sectors. So just show you the right finger, we can know the enterprise of B&Bs in China. So grows rapidly from 2021 to 2028. So the number of the enterprise of B&B, so in 2021, it's around maybe 38,000. So in 2024, is the number of enterprise of B&B increased to 1 million. So in China, so this show a very great increase. So in the B&B sectors. So unlike the traditional hotels, the B&Bs are usually small scale, locally embedded, and often operated by individual householders. So this makes them particularly relevant for understanding how tourist development interacts with local communities. So from the academic perspective, B&Bs are not merely a new lodging option. They represent broader transformation driven by digital platforms, the sharing economy, and in changing tourist preference. So studying B&Bs allows us to connect tourist geography with issues such as urban-rural interactions, spatial structure, and social economic changes. So therefore, the B&Bs provide an ideal entry point for examining contemporary tourist development in China. Most please move to the next slide. So as you may know, China has long been characterized by a pronounced urban-rural dual structure. The difference between urban areas and rural areas are evident in income level, infrastructure provision, public services, and industrial development. If we look at the right finger, we can know the income of urban residents is 3 times higher than incomes living in rural areas. This means quite a gap between the rural and urban areas, especially in China. So these disparities has shaped population mobilities and also economic opportunities over 7 decades, especially since 1978. In this context, tourism has increasingly been regarded as a strategic tool for promoting rural development and narrowing urban-rural gaps. The policies such as rural revitalization strategy implemented in 2018 and orphan war tourism emphasize the integration of urban demand with rural resources. Therefore, understanding B&B development required placing it within this broader structure background of uneven urban-rural development in China. Most of you move to the next slide. So tourist accommodation plays a very fundamental role in a tourist systems. It is not only a safe facility, but also a special indicators of tourist development intensity and structure. So the distribution of accommodation facilities often reflects tourist flows, accessibility, and local development conditions. So compared with the traditional hotels, so B&Bs are more deeply embedded in residential and community spaces. They are frequently located in rural areas such as villages and also suburban neighborhoods or historical districts. So as a result, the spatial distribution of B&Bs can reveal underlying socio-economic processes that are not easily observed through traditional tourist indicator alone. Okay, next, move to the next slide. So the concept of B&Bs varies so across culture and institutional contexts. So in Western countries such as Great Britain, B&B traditional emphasize home-based lodging, personalized services, and rural or small-town experience. So they are often associated with authenticity and host-guest interactions. On the other hand, in China, so B&Bs have developed rapidly, but with distinctive characteristics. Chinese B&Bs are usually small-scale accommodations that emphasize lifestyle, culture experience, and aesthetic designs. For example, if you look at the right picture, this is a very typical case of B&Bs in Zhejiang. Its name is Moganshan. B&B is very famous. B&B areas in Zhejiang Province. Zhejiang is close to the Shanghai, so it's very close to the big cities. So they differ fundamentally from centralized hotels products and occupy a unique position between residential housing and commercial tourist facilities. Okay, moving to the next slide. So the rapid expansion of B&Bs cannot be separated from the rise of sharing economy. So desktop platform such as MB, so about Meituan maybe, and also Quick Trip in China, so have significantly reduced information and transaction costs. A host can very easily list properties, manage bookings, and receive payments without professional training or large initial investment. At the same time, so online review systems and the reputation mechanisms have expressed the trust between strangers. So if we look at the right finger, it shows a case of so how we can search B&Bs in Guangzhou. So we can from this screenshot, we can know the B&B's price and also how many beds, how many rooms, and also the point, loyal point of the users. So it's very quite convenient for us to choose the best B&Bs for living. So these institutional innovations so allow B&Bs to scale up quickly and expand into both urban areas and rural areas. So as a result, the sharing economy provides the technological and institutional foundation for the widespread diffusion of B&Bs. Okay, next slide. Of course, from the positive perspective, so B&B development can generate multiple benefits for local communities, especially for rural areas. So first, it provides additional income sources. So for rural householders, especially for those who engage in the B&B industries, and also create employment opportunities. Second, B&B diversify tourist products and enrich visitors' experience by offering localized and personalized services. Moreover, so B&B promote the reuse of abundant housing resources, especially in rural areas due to the population decline. So in this sense, the B&Bs are often regarded as an effective instrument for rural revitalizations and sustainable tourist development. Okay, next. Okay, despite these benefits, the rapid growth of B&Bs also raises important concerns. In some urban areas, a large number of short-term rentals have contributed to rising housing prices and also obtain some gentrifications. Conflicts may emerge between permanent residents and also tourists. In rural areas, so unregulated development can lead to environment pressure, culture commodification, and uneven benefit distribution. So these negative effects highlight the need to evaluate B&B development, not only from economic perspective, but also from social and spatial perspective. Okay, next slide. So if we look at the existing academic researches on B&Bs, so and short-term rentals, so they have some limitations. The many studies focus primarily on large cities such as London, New York, Chicago, Seoul, and urban housing markets, so especially in Western countries. So rural context and developing regions remain unexplored. So in addition, many studies adopt a global perspective, which may mask important spatial heterogeneity. The urban-rural differences in development mechanisms are often in substance addressed, particularly in the context of China's unique institutional and civil structure. So because, as you may know, so in China, there's a very big gap between the rural areas and urban area due to the institution arrangement. Okay, next slide. So B&Bs mainly serve urban consumers, yet a substantial proportion of them are located in rural areas. So this special mismatch makes an urban-rural perspective particularly important. Difference in infrastructure, market access, and institution conditions shape how B&B developed in different settings. By distinguishing between urban areas and rural areas, we can better understand how similar factors operate through different mechanisms. So this perspective allows for more accurate interpretation of spatial patterns and provides stronger foundations for policy recommendations. Okay, next slide. Mosa, next slide. No, before. Okay, so based on a background, this study addressed three core research questions. The first one is, what are the spatial patterns characteristics of B&Bs in the study area? The second one is, which factors influence B&B development at the regional scale? The third one, how do these factors differ between urban areas and rural areas? Okay, next. Okay, the second part, I will briefly explain why we can consider B&Bs as disruptive innovations. Okay, next slide. So this slide introduces the theoretical lens of disruptive innovations. The key idea is that disruption does not mean technological superiority in a traditional sense. Instead, it refers to offering fundamentally different value propositions, typically cheaper and simpler and more convenient, just like a B&B. So in accommodation sector, traditional hotels often exhibit what are called performance of supply. So the traditional hotels provide standardized service, formal amenities, and service levels that exceed the needs of many travelers. However, so B&Bs enter the market not by competing head-on with hotels, but by targeting overlooked segments with alternative benefits. So this perspective allows us to reinterpret B&B not as inferior hotels, but as a structural different innovation. Okay, next slide. So from a disruptive innovation perspective, so hotels and B&Bs are not competing on the same performance dimensions. So hotel emphasize consistency, centralized service quality, and formal management system. So if we look at the left side, the finger in below, so it is a standardized traditional hotels named Hunting, maybe Mosa know this hotel. So from this figure, we can know, so the hotel provides a very standardized facilities such as a bed, officer desk, television, and also washing and desk, and some very standardized services. But for B&Bs, they can provide a very unique facilities for homestays. So early stage B&Bs often underperform on traditional hotel metrics such as service, professionalism, or brand recognitions. So, however, they compensate by offering lower prices, large living spaces, and localized experience. Over time, as platforms and hosts improve qualities, B&Bs are able to move upward and penetrate more mainstream market segments. So this gradual trajectory is a hallmark of disruptive innovation. Okay, next. So the first pillar of B&B's innovation, is Web 2.0 based and digital infrastructure. So platforms such as MB provide hosts with a ready-made technological framework, including listing systems, reservation management, and payment processing. So please look at the right finger. So I just use the Agoda app to search the B&Bs in Tokyo. So we can know there are a lot of reviews of users. So we can refer to this review for our selection of B&Bs, even in unknown places such as Japan and other countries. So these infrastructures dramatically lower entry barriers. So individuals without professional hospitality backgrounds can participate in accommodation markets. So from a geographical perspective, this democratization of market access explains why B&Bs can emerge in locations that were previously excluded from formal tourist development. So especially in rural areas and peripheral areas. Okay, next slide. So trust is also the central challenge for peer-to-peer markets. So digital platforms address these problems through reputation mechanism, online reviews and ratings, and bi-directional feedback system. So reduce the information asymmetry between host and guest. So if you look at the right finger, we can see a lot of the reviews of the users. So around 1,700 reviews. So write some reviews on B&Bs around the maybe Takusa. It's a very famous tourist point in Tokyo. So importantly, reputation is cumulative and public visible, which encourage responsible behaviors on both sides. Identity verification through official documents or social media further enhance transparency. This trust mechanism replace traditional regulatory and brand-based guarantees, enable large-scale decentralized accommodation market to function efficiently. Okay, next slide. So instant booking and mobile access represent another important technological innovation. So instant booking reduces the communication cost and uncertainty by allowing reservation to be confirmed immediately, similar to the hotel booking systems. The mobile access enables tourists to make accommodation decisions in real time, often during travel, so they can make a booking through the mobile phone app. Together, this feature increase market efficiency and reduce the cognitive and temporary cost of booking. But from a disruptive innovation perspective, convenience and simplicity are just as important as price in attracting new users. Next slide. The second pillar concerns the reconfiguration of value proposition under the sharing economy. The B&Bs enable tourists to stay in non-tourist residential areas rather than traditional tourist zones. This allows visitors to access what tourist scholars describe as back region experience. For many travelers, especially younger and culturally oriented tourists, this sense of everyday local life is more valuable than proximity to iconic attractions. So this shift reflects a broader transformation in tourist motivations from sightseeing towards experiential and lifestyle-oriented travel. Okay, next slide. So household amenities are also a distinctive competitive advantage of B&Bs. Facilities such as kitchen, washing machines are rarely available in standard hotel rooms, but are highly valued by families and long-stay travelers. If you look at the right finger, I think it's also a screenshot from the Agoda app. So we can know from, I'm sorry, it's only right in Chinese. From this screenshot, we can know these B&Bs provide television, air condition, heater, and also kitchens, and also hair dryer, and a bathroom, and towel, and desk, and also washing machines. So this type of amenities is very important for B&Bs. It's quite different from the traditional hotels. So these amenities reduce travel cost and increase comfort, particularly for groups with specific needs. From a market perspective, so they allow B&B to attract customers segments that are poorly served by traditional hotels. So this functional differentiation is central to the trajectory of B&Bs. Okay, next. So a defined feature of the sharing economy is supply-side flexibility. So unlike hotels, which require large fixed investment and long construction periods, B&B supplies can expand or contract rapidly. Hosts can enter the market during the peak season, such as festivals or major events, and exist when demand declines. So this flexibility fundamentally alters market dynamics. It increases overall accommodation supply elasticity and reduce the ability of hotel to exploit temporary demand spikes through excessive price increases. Okay, next slide. So its empirical studies provide strong evidence for the competitive effects of flexible B&B supplies. For example, research on events such as South by Southwest shows that MB listing so increased sharply during the event period. At the same time, hotel room price rise less than they would in the absence of MB. This does not necessarily reduce hotel occupancy, but constrain price surge. This finding illustrates how B&B reshaped accommodation market through supply responsiveness rather than direct substitutions. Okay, next. So as B&B mature, they increasingly engage in market segmentation and targets positioning. Initially, B&B mainly attract budget-conscious leisure travelers. Over time, firms and hosts began to target family groups and even business travelers. So labels such as business travel ready signal suitability for professional use. Platform data analytics allow hosts to match property types with special consumer segments. This strategic targeting explains how B&B gradually moved from niche markets towards the mainstream. So the right table shows the different prices between the B&Bs and the hotels. So we can know the price of B&B is quite lower than the traditional hotels. Okay, next slide. So the third part, I would like to explain the conditions of development and special distribution of B&Bs in the study area. Okay, next slide. So this slide introduced the study area named Hainan. So it's a three cities, so combined into one name. So Hainan, B&B Service Circle. So located in the north part of Hainan Province. So it's the most south part of China. Leaf circle includes Haikou City. So it's the capital city of Hainan Province, and Wenchang City and Chen County. There are three administrative units. So in this circle. So this area was selected because it represents integrated urban-rural tourist region under the All-for-One tourism framework. It contains urban cores such as Haikou City, and also suburban zones and rural hinterland. So make this circle suitable for examining spatial differentiations in B&B development. Okay, next slide. So in this phase, urban-rural classification is based on China's administrative systems. So in China, there are 4 levels of administrative systems. The first one is the province level. The second one is the city level. The third one is the county level. The lowest level is the county level. So in this research, we use the lowest level. So it includes 3 types of administrative units named township, town, and street. So in research, we classify streets or 街道 in Chinese, are classified as urban areas, while towns and townships are classified as rural areas. So it's quite important for the following analysis. So this classification reflects China's institutional reality and provides a clear operational definition for this political analysis. It allows us to compare B&B development under different administrative and socio-economic conditions. Okay, next. So this slide explains the data source used in this research, and B&B data were collected from R&B used web crawling techniques. Supporting data include the administrative diversions, traffic load network data, national A-class scenic spots, coconut level rural tourism spots, tourist attractions, hotel service, and also community residence, leisure and entertainment, public facilities. This type of supporting data are from the Baidu map. I would like to very easily to introduce the Baidu map. So Baidu is one of the very big map service support providing companies in China. So its service is most likely a Google map in abroad. So the population data are from the official statistical sources. So the use of POI data maybe a point of interest and data or POI data can enable the fine-grained spatial analysis and reflect the growing importance of big data in tourist geography researches. Okay, next slide. So this slide presents the overall spatial distribution of B&Bs in a study area. So both urban and rural areas host a substantial number of B&Bs. If you look at the right finger, we can see a lot of red points. So distributes all over the study areas. If we look at the difference between the rural areas and urban areas, the rural area means the blue color of the map. The urban areas is the green color of this map. So we can know that urban areas show much higher density. So despite having fewer administrative units. On the other hand, the rural B&Bs by contrast are more spatially dispersed. So these contrasts highlight the importance of density-based indicators, rather than absolute counts. Okay, next slide. So the average nearest neighbor index, or ANA, is used to access whether B&B locations are clustered, random, or dispersed. ANN value significant below 1 indicator the clustering. So the result, maybe the ANN value was 0.2297. It means there is a very strong clustering of B&B across study area. That suggests that B&B development is influenced by localized factors such as accessibility, tourist resources, and service environment, rather than uniform regional conditions. Okay, next slide. The kernel and density estimation visualize the intensity and B&B concentration across spaces. So unlike simple point map, kernel densities surface highlights hotspot and gradients. The analysis revealed multiple high density cores, particularly in urban areas and coastal areas. Just as shown in right finger, we can see maybe 3 to 4 cores so in this map. This pattern indicates that B&B development follows a multi-core structure rather than a single center model. The largest cluster is located in the Haikou urban core, also the middle part of this map. The second one is the Chen cluster image along the Haikou Chen corridor in the left side of this finger. And the third one is the cluster in Wenchang in the right side of this map. So these clusters reflect the combined effects of accessibility and tourist resources, especially in peri-urban and coastal zones. Okay, next slide. So Moran's eye, so it's used to measure overall spatial autocorrelations. A positive and statistically significant Moran eyes indicated that similar values tend to cluster spatially. The result of Moran eyes value was 0.736. So it means there's a very strong spatial dependence in B&B density. This finding supports the use of spatial analytical methods and suggests that neighboring areas influence each other's development trajectory. Okay, next. Local indicators of spatial association identify localized clustering patterns. The high and high clusters, the red color in the right finger, are mainly concentrate in urban areas of Haikou City, the capital city of Hainan Province, while low and low clusters, the blue colors in the right finger, dominate inland rural regions within Chen County and Wenchang City. The left side and right side, we can see a lot of blue colors in this map. So this spatial contrast clearly reflects urban-rural differentiations and also provide a special foundation for subsequent regression analysis of influential factors. Okay, next. So the first part, I would like to explain the results of my research, mainly focus on the urban-rural differences in factors, so influence B&B development. Okay, next slide. So this slide explains why it is important to analyze B&B development using a single global perspectives. So rural areas and urban areas, so in China, differed fundamentally in terms of infrastructure provision, market size, and land properties, and in institutional conditions. So this difference between the rural areas and urban areas shapes how tourist activities emerge and evolve. So if we rely only on an overall model, or maybe a global model, so important spatial heterogeneity may be considered. So express urban-rural perspective allow us to capture differentialized different mechanisms and avoid the misleading average effects. But this is particularly important in China, where rural-urban dual structure remain highly influential. Okay, next slide. So this slide presents the conceptual framework used to identify factors influencing B&B development. The variables are grouped into 5 categories, just show in the finger below, in the right side of this finger. So the 5 categories including transportation, tourist attractions, so development foundations, living service, and population. So each category represents a distinct mechanism. Transportation reflects accessibility. Tourist attraction capture tourist demand drivers. Development foundations indicates accommodation and housing conditions. The living services represent sporting environment, and population reflects market potential. Together, this framework integrates perspective from tourist geography and urban rural studies. Okay, next slide. So dependent variables in this analysis is B&B density, so which represent the intensity of B&B development within each administrative unit. Density is calculated as the number of B&Bs per unit areas. Just as I has already introduced, set path. So we use the township and street as the administrative unit. Use density rather than absolute numbers allows meaningful comparison between urban areas and rural areas, which differ greatly in size. So this indicator captures spatial concentration and provides a standardized measures of development intensity suitable for regression analysis. Okay, next slide. The transportation variables capture accessibility conditions at both local and regional scales. The road network density reflects intra-regional accessibility, while distance to highways capture inter-regional connectivity. So in tourism geography, accessibility is a foundational condition for accommodation development. However, its effects may differ between rural and urban contexts. So in urban areas, transport conditions can enhance mobility and market reach, whereas in rural areas, it often acts as a basic constraint on tourist participation. Okay, next slide. So the tourist attraction and related variables measure the dependence of B&B on tourist resources. So these variables include distance to national A-class scenic spots, distance to beautiful countryside, and also density of tourist attractions. So tourist attraction generates demand and shape waste follows. However, reliance on the attraction may vary by different stages. In rural areas, attraction often serve as primary anchors for tourism, whereas in urban areas, B&Bs may operate more independently of traditional scenic sites. Okay, next slide. Development foundation variables reflect existing accommodation and housing base. Hotel and service density indicates the maturity of the local accommodation industry, while residential density reflects the availability of housing resources that can be converted into B&Bs. So the development foundations is also very important for the B&B industry. So these variables are particularly important for understanding B&B emergence. And B&B typically reuse existing housing stock rather than purpose-built facilities. The role of this foundation differs between urban areas and rural areas due to the variation in land use and housing structure, especially in China. Okay, next slide. So living service variables include recreation density and public density, which reflect the quality of the surrounding living environment. The population density represents local market potential, and service demand. In urban areas, abundant living services enhance the attractiveness of B&B locations. On the other hand, in rural areas, limited service may constrain development, even when tourist resources are present. Population variables also help to distinguish between market-driven and resource-driven development patterns. Okay, next slide. So this slide explains the key methodology challenge encountered in the analysis: multi-collinearity among independent variables. So many explanatory variables are highly correlated, as areas with good infrastructure often also have strong tourism resources and services. So high variance influence factors, or VIF value, exceed 10. So we can see a lot of VIF value exceed 10. So even in all B&B, in urban B&B and in rural B&B, for example, in all B&B, the low net density, hotel service density, net food residential density, recreation density, public service density, and population density, the VIF value exceeds 10 in urban B&Bs. So the hotel service density, net food and residential density, and also public service density and recreation density exceeds 10. In rural B&Bs, so the hotel service density, density of tourist attraction, and on net food, residential density, recreation density, and public service density, and population density exceed. So, okay, next slide. So to address the multi-collinearity, this study adopts the Rideau regression. So Rideau regression introduced a penalty term that can shrink the coefficient estimates, so reducing the variance at the cost of introducing a small bias. This trade-off improved model stability and interpretability. So Rideau regression is widely used in regional and spatial studies where explanatory variables are structurally correlated. It is therefore well suited to the analysis of complex tourism system. If we look at a table in the following, we can know the R square. So in all BBs, urban BBs and rural BBs, the point is 0.7, 0.8, and 0.9. This means the stability of this model is quite good for explaining the results of B&B distributions. Okay, next slide. So this slide summarizes the Rideau regression results for the full sample. It means all B&Bs in the study area. So from the table, we can know that the load network density, so and also hotel service density, net food retention density, and also recreation density, or show significant positive effects on B&B development in the study area. So these results indicate that accessibility, accommodation foundations, housing availability, and living services jointly shape B&B distribution in the study area. At a regional scale, B&B development is embedded in broad socio-economic and infrastructural context rather than driven by a single factor. Okay, the next slide. So if we focusing on urban areas, different patterns emerge. So we can know from the below table, so urban B&B tend to locate it so farther from the major scenic spots. We can see the distance to a national A-class scenic spots, so show a negative effect on the urban B&B development. So where proximity to highways, for example, distance from highways, to become relatively more important. A hotel and density, or maybe hotel service density, and recreation density have strong positive effects. This suggests that urban B&Bs benefit from established tourism and service environment rather than direct dependence on attractions. They often function and complement to hotels with diversified urban tourist systems. Okay, next slide. So this slide want to interpret the urban regression results. So urban tourists typically value accessibility, convenience, and amenity over proximity to special scenic spots. High land prices, so near the tourist attractions, may also push the B&Bs towards peripheral urban areas. So in this context, B&Bs complement rather than substitute hotels. They absorb overflows demands, provide differentialized products, and extend the spatial structure of urban tourist accommodations. Next slide. So next, I would like to focus on the rural areas. So in rural areas, tourist attraction, density of tourist attraction emerge as the most significant influence factors. The next is the retention density is also important as it provides housing resources for rural and B&B and conversion. Road network density remain a key constraint, reflecting infrastructure limitations. So unlike urban areas, rural B&B development is strongly resource dependent and highly sensitive to accessibility conditions. Okay, next. So this slide highlights the node-based development logic of rural B&Bs. Rural B&Bs tend to cluster around high-quality tourist nodes, such as scenic spots, traditional village, and also cultural landscapes. If you look at the two figures in below, so the right one shows the relationship between the B&Bs and the load, the main load relation between the B&Bs and main load conditions. So in the Mogasang region of Zhejiang province, the right side shows the relationship between homes, B&Bs and resident areas. So in the Mogasang areas. Okay, next slide. So this slide provides a direct comparison between urban areas and rural areas. And transportations plays different roles. So it enhances actions in urban areas, but act as a basic threshold in rural areas. So tourist attraction dependence is much stronger in rural contexts, while development foundations and living services dominate in urban areas. So these contracts demonstrate that the same variables operate through fundamentally different pathways across urban and rural settings. Okay, next slide. So this is the final part of my talk. So I would like to conclude my research and give some policy implications. Okay, next slide. So this slide summarizes the core empirical findings of my research. The first, B&Bs exhibit significant spatial clustering rather than random distribution, so indicating strong spatial dependence. The second point is that clear differences exist between urban and rural distribution patterns, so reflecting underlying structure heterogeneity. The third point is that B&B development is jointly shaped by tourist-related factors and infrastructure conditions. These findings demonstrate that B&Bs are embedded within broader regional systems rather than emerging independently. So together, they provide a solid empirical foundations for subsequent theoretical and policy discussions. Okay, next slide. So this slide highlights the most important analytical insights of my research, so named urban-rural differentiations. Although B&B operates on similar digital platforms, their development mechanisms differ substantially between urban and rural contexts. Urban B&Bs are mainly driven by accessibility, service environment, and existing accommodation foundations. In contrast, rural B&Bs rely more heavily on tourist attractions such as the beautiful sites, some traditional village, and housing abilities. So it provides the house for repeat B&Bs. This differentiation underscores the importance of context-specific analysis rather than universal explanation. Okay, next slide. So from a theoretical perspective, this research also can contribute to tourist geography in several ways. The first way is that it integrates a platform-based accommodation research with urban-rural studies, bridging two bodies of literature that are often treated separately. This is the first point. The second point is that this research demonstrates the analytical value of an expressive urban-rural perspective in explaining spatial patterns in a region. The third point is that by focusing on B&Bs as a new accommodation form, this research enrich existing discussions on the spatial impacts of a sharing economy and digital platforms. Okay, next slide. This slide emphasizes the methodology contribution of the study. The combined use of GIS-based spatial analysis and Rideau regression model allow for comprehensive examination of both spatial patterns and the mechanism of the B&B development. So in particular, the adoption of Rideau regression addresses multi-collinearity issues common in regional studies. The analytical framework is transferable and can be applied to other regions and tourist sectors or platform-based industries, making it valuable beyond the special case study just shown in this research. Okay, next slide. Okay, next, based on my research finding, I would like to propose some policy implications. So in urban areas, B&B development should be managed through coordination rather than simple restriction. So the policies should recognize B&Bs as complementary to hotels rather than direct substitutes. Urban planning should pay attention to transportation and accessibility and public services and their food impacts, preventing excessive concentration and mitigating negative externalities such as housing pressures and resident-tourist conflicts are key priorities for sustainable urban B&B development. Okay, next slide. So the policy priority differ substantially in rural areas. To improve the transportation infrastructure is a very important prerequisite for rural B&B development. Without basic accessibility, tourist demand cannot be effectively transformed into local economic benefits. In addition, policies should focus on cultivating high-quality tourist attractions and supporting the adaptive reuse of rural housing, especially due to the urbanization and industrialization in China. So most of the rural areas experience a population decline. It means there's a lot of abandoned houses need to be reused. So the rural B&B development is a very useful tool for rebuild these abandoned houses, especially in rural areas. So without rather than pursuing rapid expansion, emphasis should be placed on the B&B qualities and sustainability and integrating with local livelihoods in rural areas. Okay, next slide. So this slide situates the findings within a broad framework of all for one tourist demonstration areas. So B&Bs can function as a key nodes, so linking the urban demand because urban, so the middle camp consumers, they have a lot of requirement for non daily lives. So tourists. So the B&Bs, so therefore the B&B can function as a very key nodes linking so urban demand, especially the middle income. So with rural tourist resources, so they can push a lot of urban consumers so enter into the urban areas. This also can promote the integration of rural and urban areas. The differentiated spatial structures are essential. Urban areas should focus on diversification and management, while rural areas should emphasize accessibility and resource development. The integrated regional planning can enhance overall tourism competitiveness and promote the integrated urban-rural development. Okay, next slide. So like all empirical researches, so this study also has some research limitations. The first one is the data are primarily derived from a single platform named MB, which may not capture the full spectrum of B&B activities in the study area. The second point is that the social impacts such as community perceptions and resident well-being are not quantitatively examined. The third point is that the analysis focuses on the cross-section snapshots and does not fully explore temporal dynamics. This imitation points to important direction for future researches. Okay, next slide. Future study can extend research in several ways. The first one incorporate multiple and platform data would allow for more robust analysis for market dynamics over time. The second one is combine spatial analysis with qualitative methods such as interviews and surveys. This is quite absent in my research. Can provide deeper insights into social impact. Finally, great attention to resident and tourist perspective to enrich understanding or broad implication of B&B development in China and other developing countries. Okay, next slide. Okay, that's all my talk. Thanks for all your attentions. I'm looking for your comments and questions. So actually, this talk is based on my paper published in a journal in 2023 in Land Journal. If you are interested in this paper, please download and give some feedback to me or Dr. Moore. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. And yeah, and we don't really have too much audience because this week I think Hokkaido is in snow disaster mode. But this lecture will be uploaded to YouTube. That's also we
Okay.
have a lot of viewers. They can
Okay.
also use subtitle in Japanese, so it's easy for them to understand. So meanwhile, we are waiting for if we have any question among our audience, or I can also mention a little bit of background. In last year, I invited someone, one Professor Hashimoto from APU,
Mm-hmm.
Ritsumeikan, Asian Pacific. He gave a topic about Hoshino Resort. It's a very
Mm-hmm.
high-end,
Yeah,
expensive,
it's a high
yeah,
end
hotel.
hotel. Mm.
So it's a
Onsen,
really,
onsen, hot
yeah,
spring.
yeah, it's very interesting to compare with your study with the Airbnb, especially in rural area.
Mm-hmm.
So I will have a quick comment to trigger further conversation. So in some country, there is rural and urban. It's very easy to understand. But for some countries, they do not really have a clear
Mm-hmm.
boundary with the rural and urban. For example, small regions and countries like Hong Kong, Singapore, they have
Mm-hmm.
only the concept of non-urban
Mm-hmm.
or
Yeah,
the
yes,
yeah,
I know, I
that's
know.
very interesting. That's
Mm.
something I would like to hear what's your thoughts, and also how I'm also quite interested you find out the Airbnb in rural area has more how to say more looks more authentic
Mm-hmm.
compared with the urban. So that's also make me thinking, how do we evaluate the similar topic in urban, maybe quite totally different, and
Mm, yeah, it's quite
somehow,
it's
yeah, incomparable. That's
mm-hmm.
a little bit thought after I heard your research. I would like to hear your comments about this.
Okay, for the first comments,
Mm,
so because research is done in a China context,
mm,
especially there's a quite deep quite gap between the urban areas and rural areas. Is
mm,
if we looking at different countries or different so regions, we can use
mm,
another analysis. So this study, the main core of this study is we need to know the factors influencing the B&B development
mm,
is quite different between different regions. So in this list, we use the rural and urban areas. You can also use different type of regions.
mm,
For example, we can use the methods so implemented in this study, like Molang, ice. So also we can doing some analysis so to evaluate the influence factors different by different regions. So in this type, we only use the rural compare these two type of regions, urban and rural areas. We can also compare different type of
mm,
regions. For example, Hokkaido and Shikoku region in Japan. So
yeah.
if we look at the abundant rate, it's quite different. So maybe the same factors. So they can play different roles, even in the
Mm,
same phenomenon. So this is the main core of this study. This is first for your comments. I'm not sure answer your comments or not.
yeah, yeah.
The second one is actually is quite different. So the B&B development in rural areas and urban areas of uh, China. So in rural areas, the main one is they can rebuild the traditional houses. So they want to enjoy because most of the consumers and rural tourists are urban
Mm,
residents. They want to consume the different so like every daily life. So in rural areas,
mm,
but on the urban areas, the B&Bs I think is the main meaning of urban B&B development is provide a additional low
mm,
price living space for some travelers. They want to looking for some lower price residential spaces. So this is quite different between the rural and
mm.
urban areas. This is a
Yeah,
second answer for your comment.
yeah, thank you very much. I think this is very applicable because it's a very fresh also way to looking at it. I think you can also consider to extend the field work area into more countries, both global north and south, to compare
Yeah.
the different result. So I guess our audience are shy, so there's no further comment.
Okay, okay.
We can ask Professor Chen to spend your evening. Okay.
Okay.
And thank you very much for your to supporting us. I will prepare the video upload to the YouTube. Hope more
Okay, thank you
audience
very much
can,
for
yeah,
your
can know your research.
invitation. So
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
a
oh,
quite
yeah. Okay. There are audiences. Thank you very much for this interesting presentation.
thank you much for your attention.
Okay. Thank you,
Yeah, thank
everybody,
you.
and
Okay, see
see
you.
you next time. Okay.
Have a nice
Y-
weekend, maybe.
Yes, you too. Okay. See you,
See
everybody.
you. And happy birthday.
Yeah, you too.
See you.
See you.